Inside Story Uganda, real source of political.
The front line tonight as we shine a spotlight on the state of political parties. Well, during the break we had a very interesting conversation about all parties, including the party where I was born, the Democratic Party.
The party that doesn't give birth to human beings.
No, I was born in well, that's a conversation.
Why are you restricting?
Well, that's good for.
Why are you restricting us outside?
That's a good tea break chat, and we'll leave it at that. But well, Honorable Semuju,
get into deeper little.
When you look at the dynamics now playing out, do you think 2026 could be any other election or an election that is going to have quite a number of peculiar aspects?
It's very difficult to predict what sort of election Uganda will have. If you look at what happened in Kawempe, first of all, the NRM has been cheating almost in all the by-elections, but cheating in a way that we are used to. That Tango Do, you will come with pickups and load your agents.
And the sticks.
And he will take them
Taking
away.
what?
But Kawempe, even under UPC, I have not been told of a story similar to Kawempe. That you can have security taking over an election, drive armored vehicles into polling stations, beat up candidates, beat up journalists. There is one Ufono was welcoming back here.
Zano.
Your journalist was also beaten. So I don't know of a recent story that is similar to Kawempe. But they are all signs. Kidnapping of people who are now being taught in Nyankole is going ahead. Security and NRM, because in the past, security would be brought in to reinforce NRM. But it appears to me they are now the ones who are conducting and driving NRM. But it's expected. Mr. Museveni at 80 does not possess the same energy he had to compete and crisscross the country. In the last election, he was helped by COVID. After campaigning, he then announced that there will be no campaigns because of COVID. Yes, there was COVID, but he took advantage of COVID. He has now just finished one round of the election. I don't know which pandemic he will declare, but chances are high that they may limit. And the Electoral Commission has become powerless. I told a friend who works at the Electoral Commission, in the 2000 elections, the late Aziz Kasuje, 2001 was Aziz Kasuje.
Yes.
Because of the violence in Rukunjiri, he wrote, and I still have that letter on my file. He wrote President Museveni and told him if he doesn't withdraw the military from Rukunjiri, I'm not going to organize the elections there. Aziz Kasuje. I highly doubt that the chairman of the Electoral Commission, as you have him today, can even complain. Because when Tango Doi took over a by-election in Soroti, the chairman of the Electoral Commission pretended as if he didn't see anything. In Kawempe, I think they first look at their shoulders to discuss Kawempe themselves.
The RDC chased Commissioner Simba from a polling station.
So,
in Kawempe.
But I was with Simba in Kawempe. I was with Simba in Kawempe with the Sebufu of Noop and nothing like that.
But of course, it happened. You need to speak to Simba again.
No.
At one point.
I know what happened.
Yeah, what happened?
What happened is that goons entered the mosque and Simba was praying. So when the goons entered the mosque, some were hurling stones at police. That's when police say, disperse them from the mosque. That's how Simba was. Not that.
Was this
so the RDC helped Simba to escape?
No. I was actually there. I was with Simba before. Then he left us, entered the mosque. So for this narration of Semuju.
Which narration?
Semuju.
So So each one of us going into this election, if you're opposition, that's what you must be preparing for. That you're going to have an election not run by electoral commission, but run by the military under Muhoozi Kainerugaba, run by.
Do you expect a miracle of an outcome?
I would be mad, insane. That in fact in Kawempe it was a miracle. It was a miracle that they were able to retrieve some results and announce the winner. I didn't expect it to happen.
And the case is in court now as we speak.
Yeah, but you see, the trouble is with Uganda is that someone who cheated the election is the one in court. And it's as if these courts have just fallen from heaven and they are presiding over a case that they... Because everybody witnessed what was in Kawempe.
Well, very interesting. Dr. Tango Doi, how are you reading the dynamics? What do you see is playing out centrally ahead of 2026 that would make it a unique election?
Well, I think as NRM we are preparing, and we are prepared for 2026. The National Electoral Commission issued a roadmap. And what we are doing is simply to make sure we are in time to present candidates at different levels. We finish with our structures. We are going to, next week, we are going to do 2 more elections in 1 week. Then from there, we go to the youth election. We must present the youth, and our youth are got from the structures. So with that, we are not bothered about all this lamentation. We are doing what a political party should do. Prepare your candidates, present them when they should. On 6th June, I'll call for expression of interest for MPs. July 16th, we elect and get flag bearers for MP, because by September we must nominate them. So we are simply doing, our roadmap is public. We are simply saying Electoral Commission wants candidates at this time, wants a presidential flag bearer or presidential nominees, candidates to be nominated in October. We have a delegates conference 22nd August to 26th, so that we get a flag bearer and we forward. So we are actually ready for this election. We are not playing a hide and seek game. We are doing it publicly. We are doing this and the other. Anyone can criticize us. Anyone can compare us to what is not true. But we are ready and we are moving forward.
Council Katana, NRM's bad manners notwithstanding, how would you assess their preparedness against your preparedness?
See, the starting point is that you cannot look at the NRM in isolation, because the elections as they have come to be in Uganda, and we have just been going through the story of what transpired in Kawempe, which has been the story in almost all the elections that we have had in the recent past. So what matters in this election is not the preparedness of NRM or lack of it, because what is going to be at play is that we are going to be up against what ideally should be a state machinery.
Comparable to what you were up to in 2021?
Same, but maybe this time more vicious, because you just a few days ago were dealing with a case of one of our colleagues, Ed Mutwe, who was tortured and left for the dead, and now dumped in prison instead of being in a hospital. So the elections are going to be very vicious, because that is the language that the NRM understands very well, of using violence, of using coercion, of using bribery to obtain consent to govern, because it has lost the ability to obtain consent to govern through ideological confrontation that your friend was talking about here. It now exists in words. But but for us, we long understood what we are up against, that we are dealing with a military dictatorship that is disguised as a democracy. And on account of many factors, things like elections will take place but are reduced into a ritual. So when we are going into this election, we understand the stakes, we understand the dynamics, and we made a decision a long time ago that at every front we are going, our approach is to disempower this monster that we are dealing with until it cannot stand anymore. So we look at this election as an opportunity that through which, as a platform through which we can disempower this monster that we are dealing with.
Not to win. You're not going
if
into
only you could listen and I drive my point home. So winning, if what we have talked about was if elections mattered, would be confident of an outright victory. But we know that there are challenges in terms of how votes are going to be tallied and declared. And that is why our message to the population has been that our role as citizens is not restricted to voting. Our role as citizens includes protecting these votes, includes making sure that we challenge anybody who wants to tamper with the results. And that is the message that we are going into the elections with. That's why we are talking about protest to vote. That is part of what it includes. It is not restricted to waking up and go and vote. Much as going to vote is very important, but it goes beyond walking to the polling station and casting your vote. Because the challenges that we have mentioned, that is to organize. To organize. Our message to the population is that we are calling upon citizen agency. Organize yourselves. Make formations of friends. If you are journalists and your friends, make a formation. If you are you can choose to call it a gari.
or you want to come in
if you are teachers
on the gari phenomenon.
If you are teachers, organize yourselves.
How the gari phenomenon is going to shape the 2026.
Yes.
No, you see, LPDC of Message and my young brother Semuju had the P10. Does anybody remember?
Power 10, yes.
P10. We wait to, I look forward to a guard. But from a positive angle, what I see
It is a big concept.
Yes, in the end, not big. They just talk about what P10 was, which is okay, as long as you don't say protest vote, that you are going to block those you disagree with, because
But
for them,
has never been our approach.
because they have chosen to go in 2021. You were clobbering, you were assaulting NRM people who are putting on yellow.
We are assaulting our people.
Yes. So anyway, you did assault. People were putting on yellow T-shirts and
Not
so
at
on.
all.
That's on the camera on these TV stations. But anyway, from a positive note, for me, if you add the 10 people in the NRM structures elected on Tuesday, plus the LC flag bearer, LC1 flag bearer.
Now we have the 30.
Yeah, the 30 plus the plus the
one.
chairman. That's 31. If you multiply that, that's about
72,000.
That's about 2.34 million leaders. If all those positions are filled, NRM has at least those 2.3 million leaders at the village level to start with. If the Secretariat leads them well in mobilization, articulating the issues, we should be able to count this election as it is for NRM to lose. What I noticed though was that in some of the villages, particularly for the leagues, older persons, women, youth,
the veterans.
You find in some of those leagues, because there is no money, no direct material benefit, there was lukewarmness. You find where they're supposed to be 5, they are 3. Now, I hope Dr. Tanga is going to use the next 2 months to see how we remobilize
to manufacture, people.
You can call for mobilization.
We actually deal a lot during Baraza.
And fill those positions, but also tune them to know that we are going into an election over one time, so that they pick. I have written an article for my Saturday column. I'm saying this election should provide momentum
For the
for the NRM's victory. There's no doubt NRM is going to win. These people will accuse us.
of
They will throw tantrums. Obviously, they will.
You think your margin this time is going to be
Yes,
wider?
yes,
Yeah,
I think
big-
so.
a
I
big-
think so.
a
I
big
think
margin.
so.
Had already taken place. I mentioned to you that we were forming leadership structures in the constituencies, and we have done that across the country. We have also been forming structures for special interest groups, starting with the youth. We have so far covered Eastern region.
How do you form them? Is there an election or you're cherry picking people?
No, not cherry picking. The
What's the criteria?
people vote.
Wait,
Yes,
wait.
in the respective places.
Yesterday. Okay, proceed.
Yes. So the
Where has voting taken place?
I've told you, for example, for the special interest groups, the youth in Eastern region, we have covered that. But we are going to do now.
Which is, I have not come across. However, I have come across.
Are you a youth? We have talked about youth
No,
particularly.
you don't have to be in Jerusalem to know that there are Christians there. You can read in books.
Yeah, but you have not read all the books, so probably you cannot come across that information.
I have not come across information that Noop is electing. I have come across information that they are picking people, that they have some isolated people. Because when you say East, which East?
I've spoken about Eastern region. For you are restricting Eastern to
Yeah, Eastern is
Uganda.
vast, but could you tell us that, for instance, in this particular
I have
place,
said
we held an
we
election?
have covered Eastern region for the youth structures. Does that satisfy your question?
No, it doesn't.
Could I help him here?
It doesn't. I'm interested in the process.
Could I help him here? These are parties. If they're not bedroom parties, they're supposed to be public.
You're helping me or you're helping Simon?
Helping you. If they are not bedroom parties, they are supposed to be a public kind of institution. I can tell you without fear or any contradiction that NRM has mandate for election of the structure at parish level.
Proceed.
And you see,
On whatever it,
NUP does not have the privilege of NRM of conducting its activities in the manner it would want to conduct its activities. That is why for us, for example, even a mere press conference is disrupted by the security forces. So you do not expect us to conduct business in a similar manner because we know what will happen when we announce that tomorrow we are doing A, B, C, D. In a similar manner that NRM announces its activities. Because then they will have an
So
opportunity.
you have clandestinely held elections for youth in Eastern Uganda, right?
maybe handpicking.
Well, you can
Elections.
describe it as clandestine, but I have given you information that we have formed structures for youth in Eastern region.
Eastern region.
The last event I had regarding NUP in Eastern Uganda was a meeting that was held
In Mbale Hall.
where the president held a meeting which actually brought a lot of speculation. The absence of Nabeshe caused a big storm. And that's the only activity I've
Actually,
had.
the activity was orientation of the leaders.
They had already been
Yes.
elected.
Yes, it was orientation of the leaders. But
And there was
also
an election.
in preparation for the forthcoming special interest group elections, the national elections, not party structure elections.
That must be Robadoba indeed.
Well, when you're dealing with, when you know what you're dealing with, then the mechanisms and strategies of dealing with it are informed by the knowledge you have of what you're dealing with.
It's a big surprise to me. I imagine all the
Well, I
parents
don't
here.
have a problem surprising you.
Okay, so what happens after the election? Mhm.
So so that was the formation of that structure. I have mentioned the formation of the constituency structures in line with our party constitution. And now we are at the stage of orienting those structures, because the intention is that now we are going to be having formation of structures at a lower level. Ideally, our plan was to use a different approach, because in the amended constitution, that was the approach. But on account of frustrations by the Electoral Commission, we have not been able to have the new constitution that is amended, gazetted and ready for use. So we are using the old constitution, which provides for a mechanism of establishing these structures, and that's the mechanism that we are using.
Honorable Semuju, you must be envious of NRM and NUP. They already have something running. Where is PFF? Or you're still grappling with registration issues?
We are under construction. We've submitted all the requirements to the Electoral Commission. They have delayed issuing us with the certificate. But this Monday, we have invited promoters from Kampala Metropolitan Main Area and from other areas. And we intend to go to the Electoral Commission.
To storm?
I mean, going to the Electoral Commission doesn't mean storming. The Electoral Commission will need to explain to the promoters what has happened to the registration of their party since August.
So you're taking a crowd to Electoral
But
Commission?
we are new in a name, but in actual fact we are not new. If you come to say to my constituency, everything that was FDC is PFF. So the leadership exists. We're just waiting for the certificate to roll.
But FDC was having nominations yesterday.
I've given you an example. You can interpret it the way you want.
FDC wish you.
At Najana Nkumbi, it was a beehive of activity as FDC nominated.
I am no longer part of that FDC. So I want to limit my discussion on PFF, which I am. But let me give you my experience as an opposition party. In the FDC, before disintegration, we would announce a program. In some areas where you have a lot of following, there will be elections. But there will also be areas where you have volunteers running the structures. Because there are even supporters who don't want to be identified as leaders because of their own security. So they will tell you, I support you, but I am not going to be part of the structure. But there are areas where some level of civic competence existed. So the construction of a register in Uganda for a political party is still a very difficult job. The NRM is ahead because they just pick Electoral Commission and announce it as their register.
No.
The rest of the opposition, you are encumbered, but also many of the opposition parties hide under the conditions not to conduct civic activities. Or in some parties, if they are conducted, they have learned the NRM bad manners. We have parties here that used to pick delegates from Arua Park and they say these ones are from Yumbe, these ones are from Arua. You know them. And then they will have a delegates conference that is not preceded by elections, where all the delegates are hand-picked around. I remember when parties were being, when the law on party was being discussed by Parliament, Professor Frederick Juko advised Parliament that it would be wrong to require every party to be national in character. He actually said any party that wants to take over power will, as of a necessity, be national in character. But he said if a party exists only in Ichira, allow it, then it will be a party, either a single issue party. But to require that political parties must be present everywhere, it's not feasible, because there are areas where it will not be. In Karamoja, we had difficulties getting candidates there. One time our candidate was taken by NRM. After nomination, she was driven to a meeting with President Museveni and she said, now I have left. We are lucky that the Electoral Commission said if you are nominated by the party, you cannot leave. So the areas where you have difficulties, but I don't think political parties have sometimes because of limited resources, but sometimes because of the interference of the state, that you will have a full register of
But this is quite significant. NUP says today they have already combed Eastern region and even elected.
I want to limit my discussion on what I know, that in FDC we would announce a program, it will be known by everybody. There will be areas sometimes where elections don't take place at all, and then you announce a refill. Sometimes after, because sometimes when you have village election, there are people who are going to progress to parish. After parish, some people progress to sub-county, then we'll announce another program to refill.
Oh, you want to interject?
Yes, Simon, you have allowed Honorable Semuju to spread lies around. I'm sorry to use that word. That NRM just picks the National Electoral Commission register and adopts it and says it is his. You have researchers for this show. It would be good, if not possible tonight, the subsequent discussions, because this is going to be a running debate. Pick 2 or 3 polling stations in the different parts of the country.
Random.
And pick the Wakama's register of that polling station, pick the one of NRM, and map them and see whether that's accurate. I have here the register of NRM we used in my polling station. I just took a photograph of the page where my name appears. We're about 15 on that page. I also took a photograph out of curiosity of the Electoral Commission. And by the way, where I vote in the NRM
is not where you
is
vote.
not where I vote in the Byelele, because I am like many of the African people, Ugandan people. I have 3 different homes. I have a home in Mukono, I have a home in Muranda, I have a home in Segeri. For the Byelele,
You vote in all.
I vote in Segeri. yes. No.
Do you want to give somebody a chance to retract his statement?
For the Wakama, I vote in Segere, in what is now Magora sub-county, which was cut off from Iolwa sub-county. For Tango Doi's election, I vote in Mulanda Yago, in Mulanda sub-county, the now new Mulanda district.
And when do you vote in Mukono?
In Mukono, I used to vote
for the national elections. He votes from everywhere.
For Mukono, I have seen.
I think what
for Mukono, I see the voting there because what if
let's be fair to Semuju. You just wanted to interject for a minute.
I think be fair to my presence here.
For Byelele, I shifted from Mukono to Segere.
No, I'll get to you.
So I think it's not good as a moderator to allow us here to come and tell lies that you don't challenge us to substantiate.
Okay, you've taken him to task. Honorable Semuju, do you want to retract?
In my particular case, for Byelele, I vote in the constituency of Honorable Tana. For Tango Doi's election, I vote in the constituency of Obote's constituency.
Okay.
Because I have home in both of them.
Point taken. Honorable Semuju, the ball is in your court.
But were you listening to Ofono at the beginning of this show?
Yes, I was.
He told you, Anna Mama Mbavas, they had no register. One time, Seven said, let everybody register. She was giving.
Let everybody vote.
Let everybody vote.
But we are not, I'm saying
now he says they have. So, I don't need to prove anything with NRM.
No. If someone doesn't want to
I have told you,
Simon, this station, this program, always our audience actually see. Task your researchers for this program for the next show. Just pick at random.
I really feel
it's simple courtesy for you to say.
You will be insane.
It is erroneous to suggest that.
You will be insane to believe that NRM has 19 million members. You will be insane that they register. has 19 members.
Yeah, but even
But
the
if you want-
assertion
if
that
you want to continue-
NRM uses the Electoral Commission
That is
register.
absolutely
Sometimes they use no register. You should even thank me for saying they are using the one of Electoral Commission. Sometimes they have no register, they have told you. I am actually giving them credit that sometimes they use the one of Electoral Commission. They both have told you sometimes they have no register.
This time, they had a register.
So why do you believe them this time? They have had elections because the party started working in 2005. And Ofonopon is telling you in the 28th year is when they have a register. And now you're asking me.
I use the word credible.
Yeah, and
As
now,
a journalist, please.
but you said Mama Mbabazi left no register. Didn't you say that, Ofono?
What's
He didn't
matter?
hand over any register.
Yes.
I said he didn't hand over.
Yeah.
I didn't say he didn't have. I said he didn't hand over.
No, you said he didn't have a register.
No, I said he didn't hand over that register.
Okay, you have a register.
What is the
That's-
contestation? What's the contestation?
Actually, nothing.
You allow
What's the
somebody to run
contestation?
away from his lies that false accusation that we use the Wakamazi register.
What
And I'm saying
is in a-
pick at random
Yeah.
10 polling stations from different districts.
Ofono,
And
you
match
have a
them.
credible register, 19 million members.
No.
Does that make you happy?
Go away even from the numbers. Let us anyway. If Samujo doesn't want, because they are used to telling lies on the floor of Parliament and other places, you, the station here and this program, owes our audience accuracy.
No, we're going
You
to...
want me to say, sorry, I am very sorry, you have a register, a credible register, 19 million people. Does that satisfy you?
Well, the audience is watching you.
So the point is noted now. It's sorted. Fine. Please, as we wind up on your point.
So you had asked me about...
You see the readiness of other parties.
yes.
NUP says they're on course. And they're doing their things discreetly to avoid attention of security and
Of
other
course,
detractors.
when you're an opposition party, you have challenges that from time to time you must keep looking for solutions. I have told you in our own case, we in areas where people had courage, we would organize the election, they go and line up. But there will also be areas where you are building from volunteers. And that doesn't mean that the supporters are not there. They are there, but they don't want to be part of the leadership, to be picked by security the following day. So then you will find a way of constructing. Sometimes it will be your construction. That the supporters are there, but they don't want to be part of the leadership because there are risks associated with being in this exercise that we are going through. In many areas, where I participated as a person in Uganda here, where the chief in Rakai, who was telling people that are you the one who registered for SG's party, which is involved in a rebellion? And then one by one you say, no, me, I didn't register. So we go to Electoral Commission and they tell you,
Our registrars are arrested and charged with subversion for registering members. They say you are registering rebels.
in one of the districts in Karamoja, we had, because the Electoral Commission wrote us a letter which they copied to security, and a man had to be told, because they asked, why are you registering people? So registration, and he got arrested for 3 days. He's in jail because he was registering PFF promoters. So it's not as easy as it is when you are registering and
So the same hiccups that bedeviled FDC then.
Every opposition party will face the same conditions, but I have said, and I want to repeat, that in itself shouldn't be an excuse for parties not to have a register in any form.
NUP has a register.
Yes, I have said, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about opposition parties, because it's not only NUP that is in election. You have seen other parties are also organizing elections. People are picking nomination forms. But if you ask them the same question, you see activities around choosing party presidents, but you don't see activities around choosing village committees. So I said, yes, in spite of the interference of security and the fear, because to be a chairperson, that I'm chairperson of PFF in Nakapiripirin, you can actually end up in jail, like others have. But you must find a way of constructing some.
While on the other side, it's prestigious to be a chairperson of NRM.
You will be in charge of PDM. So there are rewards. There is a motivation for you to be NRM.
Dr. Tangodoi, that contrast alone is also very interesting, that today, being a chairman of an opposition is literally taboo in some areas, yet for NRM, it's a smooth ride. Yesterday, or rather on Tuesday, we saw RDCs openly, RDCs, DSOs, GSOs, VSOs, openly going around mobilizing people for the NRM activities. How awkward is that?
Well, I think the first important thing is that leaders must try to use their positions to tell the truth. It's quite disheartening that we started the process of formulation of a register, as all of you NBS would follow our activities. And then you dwell on something which you know is a lie and make the public go to sleep and take that narrative as true. The NRM started the register process. NBS was invited at the launch, and NBS has been with us up to yesterday. And we've been quite informative. Then when someone comes to claim that we pick Byabakama's register and use, Byabakama is displaying registers right now as we speak. The Justice Byabakama Commission is displaying its register. They don't have a register.
You sound rattled by Semju's comment.
No,
but
no,
he
no,
came up later and said,
I sound disappointed by the way you left a lie, unless the intervention of Opondo helped. This is something which people are watching us. And I've just come from Rubirizi. I actually took time, say, should I go and give people the narrative, tell NRM what we've been doing? But then you say, we don't have a register. Then you say, we have a register, but we pick from Byabakama? When we've spent all our time.
In Tuesday's election, some places didn't have a register. I'll take you down to the taxi park, where people voted without a register.
Let me tell you, you didn't get it right, and yet it was played by your own TV. People said, we have this register, but some few names are missing. We don't want to use it. What we put as a cardinal point, let's register and make people use a register. However few they are in a register of a village, let's make it a point. People respect the fact that when they call you to update a register, do it.
The register at the park was ditched.
Yes, it was
and
there.
People voted without a register.
It was there. Just because some sections did not update when we were doing, they wanted names to be written then, and then voting takes place. The other said, no, let's use a register as is. Got back to your NBS. I watched it. You'll actually watch that whole story. And it was played for some time. I'm a very ardent fan of this NBS. So what happens here is that we are trying to make it formal, that if you don't appear, you will not participate. So that when we come back, maybe next month or next week, to say we are now updating, people must be sure that what we update is what we shall use. You cannot make a register in a religious way in a society which does not believe in that religious process.
Tangodoi, to what extent did the Tuesday election give you a glimpse into the strength of NRM? Because
the Tuesday baraza, the Tuesday process, the best thing we wanted was that baraza. And I'm now compiling data for the party to indicate that in this district, we have got the following people who were registered 3 months ago, but have since passed on. We've got these ones who are in these villages, but they've moved on, especially in urban areas. So that when we make our our negatives, we have a concise register. We are 19.4 now. But when we finish up with this exercise,
no, at the beginning you said 19.3.
I say 19.4. I've been consistent. 19.3 has been yours.
Okay.
You know, I came here ready for you because you divert us a lot. What Semuju did in this show was to show how inadequate they are. Even in Noop here, Noop may have its faults, but the fact that it is trying to assemble something called a register is good enough for the party. Because it is a die process, it's expensive, it needs a lot of determination, and needs a bit of character. We have tested our registers in the 72,000 villages. What did we find? We found that since we printed quickly, you'd find one page not there. One page in a register of say 20 pages. We found that, well, a machine could skip some names A to M, and we got that back. That get us these names. We are trying to construct what we didn't have. And like Ofono Pondo said, for the first time in many weeks, first time in many years, we are going to have a credible register. A register is credible when the people know that this is our own thing.
Okay, here is a complaint, and I think you would love to hear it. This is in Kaliro. Simon Shaw Tangodoi, the registrar of Kaliro district, Julius Taringwa, is destroying our party, being used by area member of parliament, changing the will of the people and declaring supporters of Bwire Sanon that the registry is causing a lot of mayhem to the party.
That is a petition which should reach my office.
Mutenderi Sulaiman was the winner with 150 votes.
Now you see.
The registrar changed the results and declared Tazibula Juma, who had garnered 108, which became again 162 votes.
Now, Simon, you are one of the best journalists this place has. Sure. Do you realize, according to me, do you realize that the narrative starts from one thing and ends in another? That is a petition. That should be a petition written and submitted to the DEO's office, the district registrar's office. And if he can't handle, it comes to my office. That's not about the register being inept. That's being manipulative. He's actually talking of an MP manipulatively using the register. That he actually coerced people to declare a loser as a winner. That's a petition. It does not say we don't have a register.
You see,
it does not. So what FDC, modern FDC should do, called PPF or PFF, assemble your resources, assemble your human resources, come up with something, like you said, which you will start with as a register. We have assembled what we think will take us to the next election.
I would imagine...
And we are good enough to start.
Mr. Katana, I would imagine NRM has now given a sense of hysteria to the electorate ahead of 2026. Do you think the public down there at the grassroots has now this perception that indeed it's now NRMs to lose come 2026, given what they demonstrated in terms of numbers?
You see, even NRM does not have confidence in its purported numbers. That is why it cannot allow its opponents to organize and mobilize. Because if it had confidence in its numbers that it boasts of, then it wouldn't have business arresting registrars of another party, charging them with treason. It wouldn't have any business arresting members of other parties and stopping them from engaging activities that are aimed at building momentum towards the forthcoming elections. So the population, if the NRM, like I have indicated, does not have confidence in its numbers, how do you expect the population to have confidence in those numbers? The population does not only listen, it observes, it analyzes, and makes conclusions. And so they have been seeing the conduct that the opposition parties cannot hold rallies, cannot hold meetings, cannot organize openly, register members openly, conduct activities openly, even small activities like a press conference, then there is disruption. So
but I thought you had activities in Mbale. You said so.
And after the event of Mbale, we received a letter from police stopping us. So
that is true.
That conduct clearly shows you that even NRM itself that is talking about the big numbers does not believe in it. And its conduct sends a message to the population that what they are talking about and what they are two different things. So I don't think that there is any excitement, there is any confidence that the population derives from people that are conducting themselves.
But
in
can you surmount all the roadblocks that the NRM has put in place for you to face them off in 2026? Or you're just in for the sake of it?
Not really. You see, the the roadblocks erected by the NRM are not the first in the march of history. All organizations that behave in a similar fashion as NRM have behaved in such a manner, but it has not stopped them from collapsing. So the roadblocks are there. We are aware. We have the presence of mind to know what we are dealing with. The elections of 2026, just like other activities that we engage in, are building blocks. We are aware of the challenges. We are not going in blindly, but we are also confident that we'll be able to overcome these challenges. Not because the challenges do not exist, but because, first of all, we have the conviction that what we are doing is the right thing. But number two, history has taught us that these roadblocks, while they exist, cannot stop people that are determined and mobilized around the cause from successfully executing what they have set out to execute.
Thank you. Aren't you really surprised that despite the enormous challenges, state repression, state high-handedness of state agents who are arresting and torturing NUP suspects, NUP is making strides regardless?
You see, that's the kind of rationalism. Where did the NRM itself come from? NRM has its roots in the guerrilla.
From killing people.
Guerrilla activities. It's surmounted and mutated into a formal political organization, political party. That its political wing no longer holds the gun as the instrument of recruitment or even of dealing with its political adversaries. We deal with ideological confrontation, organizational maneuvering, leadership, providing leadership, articulating policy platform, which by and large is what enhances NRM's popularity and acceptability in the public. And therefore, even if the state of Uganda erects roadblocks for you, you should be able to surmount them. Now, what does the general position and the NUP in particular say? Only 2 weeks ago, this week, Kyagulanyi was saying they have an army. And he's saying, publicly said,
Yeah.
he's the lead Muyekera, he's the lead guerrilla leader.
Of that group.
A while back, we had people in this country not recruiting for political parties. They were saying they were recruiting for religion. Some were recruiting for Christianity, some were recruiting for Islam, some were recruiting for, and saying they are taking children, young people for training.
Ended up in rave activities.
They ended up in Congo, they ended up in Kenya, they ended up in Sudan, and so on and so forth. Where I have been wearing another hat, if I am the GISO, if I am the DISO, and I see groups saying they are recruiting, they are registering women, for example, to give them free mattresses, or they are registering children who don't have parents, orphans, who don't have parents, to give them free education. Wouldn't I pick interest? I think the onus is on NUP to behave in such a way, or FDC or PFF, in such a way that you are not suspected to be engaged in criminal activities.
And why should they go clandestine?
And if you are suspected, you come forth and say, we are NUP leaders from Jinja who have been tasked. These are our documents to recruit people, to register members in Tororo. Any reasonable intelligence officer, security officer should be able to quickly analyze that and verify and say, go ahead.
But
yes.
You know that before we start an exercise, we write to the police.
Yes. How
we write officially to the police.
How come?
Before we start any of this
why do you think? Why do you think? I have been a spokesperson for the last 26 years. Have you ever heard me holding a rally, public rally, and being stopped. Have you ever had in any part of the country? Why? Because I will write formally, if not seeking for